Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you just got played? That sinking feeling in your stomach when you realize someone manipulated you into doing exactly what they wanted while making you think it was your idea. You're not imagining things. You might have just encountered a master manipulator with Machiavellian tendencies, and they're far more common than you think. We all want to believe we're too smart to be manipulated, that we can spot deception from a mile away. But the truth? Even the most intelligent among us fall prey to skilled manipulators daily. The colleague who somehow got you to take on their project. The friend who never pays for dinner but makes you feel guilty for mentioning it. The partner who turns their mistakes into your apologies. These experiences leave us feeling confused, used, and questioning our own judgment. The emotional toll of being manipulated goes beyond simple frustration. It strikes at our deepest vulnerabilities and sense of self-worth. What if you could spot these manipulation attempts before falling victim to them? Imagine having an internal radar that alerts you when someone is trying to play mind games. By the end of this article, you'll understand exactly how Machiavellian manipulators operate, the psychological techniques they use, and, most importantly, how to protect yourself from their influence. You're about to gain insights that will change how you view many of your past and present relationships. The term Machiavellian comes from Niccolo Machiavelli, whose book The Prince basically suggested that rulers should do whatever necessary to keep power. Morals be damned. Today, psychologists use this term to describe people who manipulate others for personal gain without feeling bad about it. These folks make up one part of what's called the dark triad of personality traits alongside narcissism and psychopathy. But unlike psychopaths who might hurt others just because they can, Machiavellians only manipulate when they stand to gain something. They're calculating rather than randomly destructive, which in some ways makes them more dangerous. Their actions are always deliberate. Machiavellians view social interactions like chess games, with people as pieces to be strategically moved. They assess rooms immediately for potential targets, focusing on who seems most vulnerable to their influence techniques. Research shows they prefer manipulating people who are agreeable, trusting, and somewhat anxious, qualities that make someone more susceptible to manipulation. Their emotional detachment gives them a tremendous advantage in any interaction. While you're caught up in feelings, hurt, angry, confused, they're calmly planning their next move. Think about that person who can walk away from an argument seemingly unfazed while you're left replaying their words for days. That's not necessarily emotional strength, it could be Machiavellian detachment at work. Machiavellians approach lying with sophistication. They don't lie compulsively, they lie strategically and convincingly. Studies show they're often perceived as more credible than honest people even when being dishonest. They don't view lying as wrong, just another tool in their arsenal. Remember that friend who could look you straight in the eye while telling a complete falsehood? That's a classic Machiavellian trait. They excel at impression management. Research has found that even from photographs alone, high Machiavellians are rated as more intelligent, brave, and talented than others. They instinctively know how to present themselves in the most favorable light for any situation. Think about that coworker everyone in authority loves, while colleagues witnessing the same behavior are left confused. Boundary testing is another hallmark behavior. They'll make small provocations to see what they can get away with, constantly assessing where your red lines are. If you don't establish firm boundaries, they gradually escalate their manipulative behavior. That friend who borrowed increasing amounts of money and forgot to pay back larger sums? They were testing how far they could push before meeting resistance. What makes them particularly effective is their adaptability. Unlike people with rigid personality patterns, they adjust strategies based on the situation and target. They use different tactics with different people, making their behavior hard to pin down. The person who's charming with your boss but dismissive with support staff displays this calculated flexibility. In romantic relationships, Machiavellians often employ two specific emotional manipulation strategies: undermining their partner's confidence through criticism, worsening techniques, and using tactics like sulking or playing the victim to get their way. Inauthentic strategies. If you've been in a relationship where you constantly apologized without knowing exactly why, you might have experienced this firsthand. What's unsettling is how Machiavellians maintain their manipulative behavior while appearing completely charming. They understand social norms well enough to present a convincing mask of sincerity. While most people value sincerity for its own sake, Machiavellians only care about appearing sincere, a subtle difference that makes them hard to detect. Their approach to empathy is equally calculated. They typically score low on emotional intelligence tests but excel at what researchers call cold empathy, understanding others' mental states without sharing their emotions. This allows them to predict your behavior and manipulate effectively without becoming emotionally involved. They read your feelings well enough to know which buttons to push, but don't actually feel your pain when they hurt you. In workplaces, Machiavellian behaviors include strategic flattery, selective information sharing, coalition building, and using their position to control others. They thrive in unstructured environments where rules are flexible. Studies show that in organizations without clear management structures, high Machiavellians earn twice as much as their low Machiavellian counterparts. That startup disruptor bending every rule while rising rapidly through ranks? They're likely employing these strategies. Take a moment and think about your own relationships. Is there someone who consistently leaves you feeling confused after interactions? Someone who always seems to get their way while making you feel it was your idea? This isn't about becoming paranoid, it's about becoming aware of dynamics that might be harmful to you. What drives this behavior? Research suggests Machiavellianism has less genetic influence than other dark triad traits like psychopathy. Environmental factors, particularly childhood experiences, play a significant role. Studies highlight that low-quality maternal care is among the most important factors contributing to developing a Machiavellian personality. Children with insecure attachments and poor parental communication may develop these manipulative traits as survival strategies. Not everyone with Machiavellian traits is a villain from a movie. These tendencies exist on a spectrum, and many people exhibit some behaviors occasionally. The difference lies in consistency, intensity, and motivation. Someone occasionally using strategic thinking to navigate a complex situation isn't necessarily Machiavellian. It's when manipulation becomes their primary way of relating to others that it becomes problematic. So how can you protect yourself? Awareness is the first step. When someone's charm seems too perfect or you feel confused after interactions, pause and reflect on what happened. Establishing clear boundaries is essential since Machiavellians thrive on exploiting ambiguity. By clearly communicating your expectations and enforcing consequences when boundaries are crossed, you become a less appealing target. Trust your gut feelings. If something feels off in an interaction, it probably is. Manipulators often gaslight their targets, making them doubt their perceptions. If you repeatedly question your judgment around someone, pay attention to that red flag. Be cautious about sharing vulnerabilities too quickly. Machiavellians collect information about others' weaknesses as future leverage. This doesn't mean becoming paranoid, just being mindful about how much personal information you share with people you don't know well. Think about the last time you felt manipulated. What techniques did the person use? Did they make you feel guilty? Create artificial scarcity? This is your last chance. Use flattery, or perhaps position themselves as a victim. Recognizing these patterns is your first defense against them. Focus on actions rather than words. Machiavellians excel at saying what you want to hear, but their behavior tells a different story. Pay attention to patterns over time rather than getting swept up in charming explanations or promises. Remember that manipulation thrives in isolation. Discuss concerning interactions with trusted friends who can offer perspective. What seems normal when you're in the middle of a manipulative relationship often looks clearly problematic when described to someone outside the situation. Perhaps most importantly, cultivate your own self-awareness and emotional resilience. Understanding your vulnerabilities, whether it's seeking approval, avoiding conflict, or trusting too quickly, helps you recognize when those buttons are being pushed. Emotional regulation skills help you respond thoughtfully rather than reactively when faced with manipulation attempts. Take a moment today to reflect on one relationship in your life that consistently leaves you feeling drained or confused. Apply what you've learned to analyze the dynamics at play. The best defense against manipulation is a community of people committed to honest, authentic relationships.